The Chiefs wrapped up OTAs on Friday, concluding a 3-week stretch that marked one of the most significant periods of the offseason training program. Now, OTAs, which stand for Organized Team Activities, are important because it's the first time all offseason the offense can actually compete against the defense out there on the practice field, really for the first time since the Super Bowl ended. Earlier in the offseason, it was just positional stuff and individual drills that were permitted, but over the last 3 weeks, we saw 11-on-11 and 7-on-7 offensive versus defensive drills, some actual real football. Now, the pads weren't on, there's no live contact or live hitting right now, but still, the mental reps that were built during that 3-week period will be the foundation for the entire summer and training camp coming up in just about a month. So that's important. Now, in terms of guys who stood out, Hollywood Brown tops my list. We know what Hollywood can do. He's a veteran receiver in this league with blazing speed, and he can run the full route tree, and we saw all those things, but his ball tracking ability was on full display throughout OTAs, particularly on deep balls way down the field. That's exciting stuff because it shows he's building a rapport with Patrick Mahomes already. Jared Wiley is another player that stood out to me. Of course, the rookie tight end out of TCU. Really 2 areas is where he stood out the most, and it was important for him because he was one of the standouts of rookie minicamp, and the challenge for him was to carry that momentum into OTAs, and I think he did it, particularly in the red zone, where that's no surprise. He led all FBS tight ends in red zone touchdowns last year, and also up the seam, where he can use his 6'6", 250-pound frame and his speed to his advantage. Another player who stood out is a guy you might remember from last year's training camp, and Nico Remigio. Now, Nico's a wide receiver, a UDFA out of Fresno State last year, and he was flashing, really had an opportunity to make this team last year at a training camp before a shoulder injury ended his season early, but now healthy, he's picked up right where he left off. He's looked great throughout OTAs. Long way to go, got to prove it with the pads on, but he's certainly a player to watch in training camp as well. On the defensive side of things, here's 2 quick names to know. Kelvin Joseph, a former second-round pick of the Cowboys back in 2021. He signed a reserve futures deal with the Chiefs earlier this offseason, and he's looked good. He had an interception last week during 7-on-7 drills and has gotten a lot of reps out there with the defense. So Kelvin Joseph is certainly a name to know. And also Trey Dean, a second-year safety out of Florida who is a UDFA signee with the Jets last year, spent some time on their practice squad and joined the Chiefs in January. He's looked really solid as well. Last week, he had an interception during 7-on-7 and a pass breakup during 11-on-11 drills. A lot of experience for Trey Dean at the University of Florida. He started 40 games in his time there. He's kind of a do-it-all defensive back. Played strong safety, free safety, slot corner, played all over the place. And he's doing a little bit of that with the Chiefs as well. So Trey Dean, another young player to know. Next up for the Chiefs will be mandatory minicamp next week. It's a 3-day stretch, very similar to OTAs in terms of the rules. It's just mandatory as opposed to voluntary. And after that, we'll have training camp in just about a month.